Hi.
Aloha.
Aloha.
So my question is about the unseen dimension and people that have contact to living unseen, okay, clairvoyance, psychic mediums, people that like real people that, I mean, not fake people, but people that have like the ability to contact and have these spirits from this other dimension come in, near death experiences like Anita Morjani that wrote Dying to Be Me. Um, um, if we are all able to access this unlimited realm of consciousness, um, have you ever been able to have that experience?
When I was young, a long time ago, I had some interest in that and experimented a little bit with that, and I had a little bit of experience with presences. But when I went through my awakening, I lost interest in that. My focus was not on that. Um, Although I have come into contact with quite a few people who, over the years, who channel spirits and spirit presences. Who, you know what channeling is, and I've looked at I've spoken to and looked at what is being channeled. The important question is, these presences are also just manifestations of the one consciousness, obviously. So whatever you contact, and even if you contact extraterrestrials, they will be manifestation of the one consciousness. So ultimately, there's nothing alien in this world. As far as my interest for many years, even after awakening, has been in channeling, although I never attempted to channel myself. Channeling would mean one specific entity uses your mind and speaks through you. Some people occasionally people thought that I was channeling when I speak, but I don't have the sense that a specific entity speaking through me, rather than that consciousness is using my mind directly, rather than through an intermediary, so to speak, because the entity that speaks through the channeler, again, is an expression of consciousness. So it's always consciousness. I've had some people who've told me that I don't know, they saw me being overshadowed by some. I don't know whether it's the case or not. I don't need to explore this. In a way, when I speak, it flows from from the presence. In that sense, it's channeled in the sense that I do not, as a person, I do not construct the sentences that I speak. They flow from a deeper level, but I don't feel that they are dictated, so to speak, by an entity. I have examined the product of channelings. Lots of channelings are not that profound. They are very nice words, but ultimately don't say very much. Or there are exceptions. I'll get that in a minute. Or they tell you stories that they could be very interesting science fiction. What Ashtar is doing, the commander of the Galactic Fleet, and so on. Maybe he is, maybe he is not. I don't need to know that. There are some channelings that are exceptional, where there's actually a higher consciousness at work. So, for example, the Course in Miracles is a book that was channeled through a medium. The medium, Helen Schucman, was a psychologist at Columbia University, and this voice came through her and spoke through her, and she was writing, basically taking down dictation every day in her office at Columbia University. She only told one colleague about it. She had to lock the door when she was doing it because they would have thought she was insane. So she was taking down dictation. It started with, she heard this inner voice, "This is a Course in Miracles, please take notes." And she went to her colleague and said, "I hear this voice, I think I'm going insane." And her colleague said, "Just write down what the voice says, and then we'll decide whether you're insane or not." And she wrote down, and it was not insane. It's actually a deeply inspired teaching, not for everybody, because the form in which it comes is not suitable for everyone. No one spiritual teaching is suitable for everyone. But the Course in Miracles has survived and will survive as a spiritual classic. There are other channelings too that are quite profound, but they tend to be exceptional. So my main interest is, as far as the spirit realm is concerned, what comes through when people channel the messages. Now, unfortunately, there is the belief in many people that if they have passed away, they automatically are in possession of greater wisdom, and I don't believe that to be the case. From some experience, according to the famous dictum, just because they are dead doesn't mean they are smart. So you get a lot of posturing from these entities. Sometimes they want to be taken seriously, they exaggerate their importance sometimes. And at other times, it can often also be the case, I observed, that the ego of the person channeling is actually the entity. So there isn't an entity, but the ego gets blown up and amplified, and the ego realizes how much power it can have over others when it suddenly changes its voice and looks up at the ceiling or something and goes, "Hello, entities. I am here to guide you." And it's very impressive. I mean, it's scary when you listen to them. So, oh my God, he really must know the secret of the universe. So I wouldn't, spiritually speaking, I would not seek that out too much. It is comforting, of course, if you go to somebody who can contact deceased. And there are very few who are genuine. It can be very comforting to know that a loved one is still there, has not disappeared into nothingness. But there's also a lot of deception there with people who do that. But a few are very good. But don't lose yourself in that, because then you give your own power away to other entities, and that can be also quite dangerous. So don't lose yourself in that realm. Go to consciousness directly rather than seeking an intermediary through which to access wisdom. Rather than that, find the wisdom that is within you. You don't need an intermediary in order to provide you with wisdom. So because it is inseparable from the essence of who you are and what you are. The wisdom is in you. So don't seek it. If something like that happened to what had happened to Helen Schucman, that's a different thing. Suddenly you are overpowered by this. And in most cases, when a voice comes to you, it's not good news.
Well, so what about like in the Bible? Because I know I hear you and Kim use a lot of scripture from the Holy Scriptures. In those chapters, there's a lot of prophecy,
Yeah.
and like with the Moses story, right? And and God said, and he said, "What do I call you?" And he says, "I am that I am," right? And that was the prophecy about him. So
No,
I
sorry.
think you were mentioned in there.
That wasn't a prophecy. I am that I am is the deepest truth of the essence of God, with the essence of your innermost essence. So that's a very deep statement in the Bible where when God says I am that I am, or I am the I am. It's just there are some wonderful teachings in the Bible. If you have to look for them, there are jewels here and there. There's so many books in the Bible. Some reflect ancient cultures, but there are. I might even bring the Bible the day after tomorrow and read a passage to you. I would like to comment about wisdom. You will love it. So I'll tell you before we finish. The Bible has prophecies, yes. Or in particular, of course, the last book of the Bible, Book of Revelations, which is full of symbolism, very hard to penetrate, but some things seem to make sense. If you want me to interpret the Book of Revelations in one sentence, I can do it, which is one sentence. Before it gets better, it will get a lot worse. That's
Yes.
true. Yeah. Thank you. But I'll tell you another funny story about channeling. I met a woman many years ago when I was living in England. She channeled a spirit guide. The name was Bartholomew, and it's actually quite good. That produced 2 or 3 books of spiritual teachings. So her guide was Bartholomew, and Bartholomew spoke through her. I met her in Glastonbury in England, which is the equivalent of is Sedona, Arizona. I lived there for a few years. All kinds of weird people, including myself, lived there. No, it's a wonderful place. And so I met her, and she gave some talks, channeled Bartholomew, and it was quite good. And later, she came back a year later, and she said something very bad had happened, and that is she received a letter. There were no emails at the time. She received a letter from a woman who wrote to her and said, this woman wrote to her in a letter, said, "You will be very happy to know that I also channel Bartholomew now." And so the original channeler got very upset by this, and and then the second woman said she intended to publish also heard the channel teaching of Bartholomew, and then the original woman took her to court. This would be the very difficult conundrum for the judge. And I don't know what the outcome of the court case was, but I just know the last I heard from her was she had taken this woman to court to say she had no right to channel Bartholomew. It's also strange that most of these entities, well, I call them entities, really, well, let's say entities, although it's usually the other way around. The guides are called the humans entities, but they only seem to choose one person and then no other, so that they all seem to speak through one, except for Bartholomew. They speak through one person, and then when the one person dies, it's gone. It seems it's a little strange, but anyway, the look at the what it is, what the message is, what the channeled message is, or whatever it is. You can judge it by the quality of the message, the fruit. You can recognize whether there's something genuine there by examining the fruit. Recognize the tree by its fruit, or something. I don't know. There's a saying. This is how I do it. There's another book that is actually, it's an older book that was basically channeled. This is the famous foundational book of Christian Science by Mary Baker Eddy, Science and Health with the Key to the Scriptures. Science and Health with the Key to the Scriptures. It's obviously a channeled book, and there is a spiritual power in the book. It's even if you doubt the conceptual things that she's saying, there is some truth in there also, and so it has survived. It has become a kind of a classic. So that would be another example of good quality channelings. There are obviously some passages in the Bible that are also channeled. One can see it when you read it. You can see it, and that's fine. So my message to you then is simply, don't seek it out, but when it does appear, look at it. Use your discernment to see whether there's something, whether there's genuine wisdom there, but primarily. Look to yourself, allow consciousness to use you, and find the wisdom that is already in you so that it can come forth.